That's good music, folks. I love it. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the weekend. Thanks for joining me one more time in the wee hours of the night on the graveyard shift. This is Michael, by the way. And we've always got good coffee going. On my watch, we do at least. And if we run out, we can just make more. No worries. Let's get to the answer to the previous trivia question, folks, so we can kick off this gorgeous, gorgeous weekend. Here we go. The answer to the previous trivia question was none other than Nightline with Ted Koppel. For those of you in my generation, you might have remembered Ted Koppel in Nightline. It was a really cool show, and I'll go over some different aspects of it right here and right now. So Nightline had its beginning in November of 1979, the latter part of 1979. I know that the trivia question referenced the kind of the early quarter of 1980, but it goes back to November of 1979 when the country was immersed, and I do mean immersed, in what went down in history as the very long-standing Iran hostage crisis. This was a big deal in this country. This amounted to a standoff between the United States and Iran, which had the end result effect of 52 American citizens and diplomats being held for a total of 444 days. Well over a year, folks. This went on and on and on, and it really grasped the attention of everybody in the country. So the show Nightline was actually called the Iran Crisis American Held Hostage, and every day that this would go on, they would update it, like day 12, day 20, day 50, etc. And it began just 4 days after the start of the hostage situation. Okay, it was aired during a late night time slot, crunched in between the conclusion of regular TV shows and the beginning of the talk show listings. At the time, the program featured Ted Koppel, who was kind of an amazing character in and of himself, and I'll get a little bit into that later on. And its main anchor, Ted Koppel, from March of 1980 until he retired in November of 2005. Folks, he had a really long stretch with this show, really in an exclusive stretch to the show. Before that, I think he did politics, but once he landed the Nightline anchor at that desk, he stayed there for 25 long years. It was officially in March of 1980. The name of the show was officially changed to Nightline, which of course was the focus of the trivia question. Now, well before the hostage crisis, Nightline had easily become a mainstay on ABC's programming schedule, and it made Ted Koppel a national figure. Quite frankly, it was great marketing. A lot of people don't realize the significance of this show. Quite frankly, it was interjected in between prime programming, booked into a slot before most people went to bed, which was very important because the likes of CNN and 24-hour news programming hadn't taken off just yet. So this was still in the era of like the big three networks. Also significant factor, significant variable that played into this is nobody had done this before, right? There was an exclusive topic that had grasped the attention of the country. That was the Iran crisis, American hostage situation, and they were reporting on it every night, and that was the format and kind of the platform, and it took off from there, right? It has been asserted that Nightline really started this whole idea and news format in and of itself, and especially with the way Ted Koppel delivered everything. And I truly believe that when you go back and you look at the history of stuff, and when CNN came into the 24-hour network came into the ball game and so forth, nobody was doing it before Nightline and Ted Koppel, quite frankly, in that kind of a format. Now, the program originally aired 4 nights a week. It was a Monday through Thursday format, and it was only 20 minutes long, and then quickly picked up Friday nights after its popularity grew, as well as expanded to a full 30-minute program. Nightline really established the idea, like I was kind of alluding to before, of investigative journalism and the concept of extended interviews on its show, focusing on a single topic during the half-hour time slot. there were efforts early on to change the format at one point, but they were very unsuccessful, and they quickly went back to the original method. And quite frankly, Ted Koppel's way. When you break it down. Now, on occasion, when a significant news story occurred, Nightline would top its entertainment rivals in the ratings in the era of David Letterman, Johnny Carson, and Jay Leno. That's a significant factor. That really goes to show you how well the show took off and how popular it became and how serious people were taking it and how many people were tuning into it just before they went to bed or they transitioned over to late night talk show. Okay, so at one point in the 1980s, this is a pretty cool geek factoid that I found researching this. The show had over 7.5 million viewers. Now let that sink in. This is the 1980s. That is a significant portion of people who are tuning in to a 30-minute news show on one of the big three networks in the 1980s. 7.5 million viewers. Think about that, folks. Koppel, such an interesting character in and of himself, retired in 2005, and the format changed almost instantly when he retired to discuss multiple concepts and topics crammed into one show. Speaking of Koppel, like I've mentioned a few times here, he was born in the UK. I think my research indicated, and his parents escaped Nazi Germany. I mean, this guy was really just an interesting character and a great journalist. He doesn't get a whole lot of credit for, glitz and glam and kind of boom type of delivery. He was very kind of plain. But if you ever did have an opportunity to tune into Nightline back in those days, it was very thorough, incredible journalism, right? So by the time his show, by the time he retired in 2005, everyone had a talking head news show, pretty much in that late hour slot, right? Koppel and Nightline were the first to make this type of format a mainstay on major networks, and that's a fact, folks. Nightline is in fact still on TV today, and I'm not sure where. I found it surfaced after Koppel came and went in a bunch of different aspects. I'm not even sure you could find it if you looked for it, quite frankly. But it had multiple hosts, has had multiple hosts, and all kinds of different formats have been tried. Koppel is still very much alive today, and as early as during the height of the COVID pandemic, made a guest appearance on Nightline, and he was making the case for honest, reliable, and credible journalists, just like himself, quite frankly. Okay, folks, let's get the weekend started. Here is a truly great trivia question. Might require you to do a little bit of research, but you got all weekend, folks. Check this out. This is a good truth. Listen to this very carefully. For March 25th, on this day in 1932, the U.S. Supreme Court hands down its decision in the case of Powell v. Alabama, in which 9 young black men were falsely accused of raping 2 white women. This infamous case of injustice became known as this, named after the group of young men in the Alabama town where the case occurred. Good luck, folks. Have a great weekend. I appreciate all you do, and thanks for staying up with me. Peace out, folks.